welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the races and classes in the upcoming high fantasy MMO, Ashes of Creation. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please subscribe, for I'm going to start delving deep into this game. I'll bring you guys the news, guides, and maybe even start a lore series. Links to my Twitter and my Discord server will be below. Let's get right into it. There will be 9 playable races to choose from in Ashes of Creation, 8 of which are directly associated with a parent race, and 1 that stands more on its own. None of the races are gender or class locked. Each race will have its own starting area, which represents one of the ruined cities of the 4 ancient races of Vera, but players will have the option to choose where they want to start. Vera is a planet that was destroyed by a race known as the Ancients, and you and the others on your server will be some of the first to return to this world in hopes of resettling and revitalizing it. Races will have their own unique mount and armor. Although armor is not race locked, it will many times take on racial appearances. For example, an orc wearing the eagle armor set will look different than an elf wearing the eagle armor set. Cultural influences will be present, but both armor sets will still maintain the thematic design of that particular set. A player's choice of race will also influence racial augments, which can be applied to abilities on a character's primary archetype, which is kind of like your class, but I'll get into all of that after we finish this segment. These racial augments will affect how an ability may work, and they can also apply cosmetic effects. An elven fighter may serve the same role as a dwarven fighter, but there will be certainly a different feel. Races are not just a matter of looks, they are integrated deeply into the class system. The Ayla humans are a race that are part of the Aylan Empire, which was the largest nation on the planet of Vera before the apocalypse. This race is split into 2, the Kalar and the Veloon. The Kalar live on the principles and traditions of build, order, and civilization. Their empire in the old world spanned the largest of all, and they plan to do the same in this world. The Veloon live on the principles and traditions of trade, law, and hardship. This race was forged in the heat of the desert, and through the ashes they have become a blade that bends but does not break. Their environment has taught them what it means to kill or be killed. The Dunzenkel dwarves hail deep from the mountains of Vera in the Dunzenkel nation, the oldest nation in the world. This race is split into 2, the Dunir and the Nikua. The Dunir live on the principles of stoicism, tradition, and they love the forge. They take immense pride in what they craft and what they build. The inner mountains are the Dunir's paradise. The Dunir also make up some of the strongest warriors the world has ever known. The Nikua live off the principles and traditions of family, freedom, and courage. They love hunting and they see the inner mountains as a prison. They too are highly skilled artisans. The Kaivek orcs come from a nation called the Kaivek Protectorate, where they were taught that all orcs answer to the protection of the divine order. These teachings express the belief that it's the will of the gods that all orc kind should have superiority over the nations of Vera, for it was only through the unity of orc clans that the people of Vera would be led to enlightenment. The Kaivek have a history filled with conquest, but in more recent times, some of the orc leaders have begun to echo the teachings of peace. This has led to the rise of internal conflict. The Kaivek are split into 2 races, the Renkai and the Vek. The Renkai live on the principles of honor, power, and tranquility. They believe in ultimate focus and controlling their immense power, but when they do become enraged, they are a force to be reckoned with. The Vek live off the principles of purpose and fate. Star maps, numerology, and prophecy are integral parts of a Vek's life. The Pyrian elves are generally a secretive race, and they come from the Pyrian kingdom. The Pyrian kingdom's borders encompass the great forest of Aranthia. The kingdom's capital city of Amira had universities of magic and martial studies that were unparalleled in the lands of Vera. The Pyrian elves are split into 2 races, the Empyrean and the Pyrai. The Empyrean live off the principles of imperialism, pride, and culture. They have elite military forces with a highly structured government, and they're certainly a force to not take lightly. The Pyrai live off of nature, balance, and fury. They They believe that all things come to balance in time and nature always has her way. This race of elves rarely take prisoners, and they are extremely deadly with bows and spears. The 9th playable race, the Talnar, are a combination of the 4 major races and many minor races that were left behind on Vera after the apocalypse. This race has fled to the Underrealm, although not restricted to it, to escape the corruption that befell Vera. Talnar stands for the Forgotten. This will be the only race with the capability to adjust racial appearance in a significant manner, whether you want more reptilian features, humanoid features, or mammalian features. And those are the 9 playable races. Now it's time for everybody's favorite subject, classes. But be on the lookout because I will do more race videos in the future, such as lore videos and racial statistics. Classes in Ashes of Creation are a combination of your primary and secondary archetype. You will choose your primary archetype at the start of the game, and this choice is permanent. There are 8 different primary archetypes to choose from: Fighter, Tank, Rogue, Ranger, Mage, Summoner, Cleric, and Bard. As you level up, you will receive skill points that will be spent within your primary archetype skill tree. Upon reaching level 25, you will then choose a secondary archetype, and the results of this choice will determine what your class is. Your secondary archetype choices are the same as your primary archetype choices, but the results of your choice this time around lead to 64 total unique classes in the game. Your secondary archetype will change the way that your active skills will work. Players can now augment their primary skills with effects from their secondary archetype. The secondary archetype choice is not permanent, but it also cannot be changed on the fly. This system can almost be thought of as your primary class and subclass, but that's not really how the game's terminology is presented. Your class in Ashes of Creation is the results of both your primary and secondary archetype choices. Here's a quick example to help you understand. A player chooses Ranger for their primary archetype, which is on the left side of this chart. Upon reaching level 25, they then get to choose their secondary archetype from the choices on the top of the chart. Let's say this Ranger chooses Tank for their secondary archetype. Follow the chart to where the Ranger and the Tank meet, and it tells us that our class is the Sentinel. You're still a Ranger, but your skills will be augmented by tanky type features. If a fighter chooses Mage as their secondary archetype, they become a Spell Sword. A fighter's classic rush ability might then be augmented to make that rush skill turn into a teleport, which is a more magey type of feature. The rush skill will still get the fighter to their target and deal damage, but now it has become much quicker as a teleport animation. Now let's go over all of the archetypes and see what classes they lead to. Fighters are experts in physical combat and masters of many weapons. This archetype will include maneuverability and closing the gap mechanics to enable the fighter to quickly traverse distances on the battlefield. Many times fighters will be cutting through enemy lines and taking out healers with quick DPS. This will be a versatile archetype, allowing the player to determine whether they want to be more ranged or melee based. If you also choose Fighter as your secondary archetype at level 25, Weapon Master will be your class. The other classes you may become include Dreadnought, Shadowblade, Hunter, Spell Sword, Blade Caller, High Sword, and Blade Dancer. A tank's job is to control a fight, help mitigate damage, and dictate who is getting hit. This archetype can take massive amounts of punishment, and woe to those who ignore their commands. Tanks will have different build options, such as evasion tanks, control tanks, and shield tanks. If Tank is chosen as your primary archetype, regardless of your secondary archetype choice, it will be viable for tanking in upper end raids. If you also choose Tank as your secondary archetype, your class will be called the Guardian. The other classes you might become are Knight, Knight Shield, Warden, Spell Shield, Keeper, Paladin, and Argent. Rogues are masters of opportunity, using skill, positioning, and the environment to dish out crazy amounts of damage. Outside of combat, rogues can provide some utility to help parties navigate hidden dangers, such as traps, or find hidden doors and treasures. If you also choose Rogue as your secondary archetype, you will be an Assassin. The other classes include Duelist, Shadow Guardian, Predator, Night Spell, Shadow Lord, Cultist, and Charlatan. Rangers are masters of death from afar. They are extremely skilled with bows and other types of ranged weapons. They also have a keen eye when in natural environments. If you choose a ranger as your secondary archetype, you will be the Hawkeye class. The other classes include Strider, Sentinel, Scout, Scion, Falconer, Soulbow, and Bowsinger. Mages are masters of the arcane, and they bring terrible elements to bear and devastating spells. There will be elements such as air, fire, water, and lightning, and these elements may even be influenced by the current climate and seasons. The Mage archetype offers 4 elemental schools as augments to a character's primary skills. If you also choose Mage as your secondary archetype, you will be the Arch-Wizard class. The other classes include Battle Mage, Spellstone, Shadowcaster, Spell Hunter, Warlock, Acolyte, and Sorcerer. A summoner lives by the motto of 2 hands are good, but 4 hands are always better. There's not really any situation a summoner cannot handle, for they can shift their roles easily to fill gaps in a group's composition. Many of the summoner's abilities are channeled through their summons, which are basically pets or companions. This can include animals, spirits, undead, and more, and a summoner will be able to summon up to 3 at once. Summoners who work together may be able to summon much larger summons, such as golems. If you also choose Summoner as your secondary archetype, you will be a Conjurer. The other classes include Wildblade, Brood Warden, Shadowmancer, Beastmaster, Spellmancer, Necromancer, and Enchanter. Clerics can protect their allies in a number of ways, and when necessary take life from others. They are masters of the essence of vitality and can sense the broken and corrupted. They can heal and resurrect, or even turn enemies' powers against them in the heat of battle. Choosing the Cleric as your secondary archetype as well will give you the High Priest class. The other classes include Templar, Apostle, Shadow Disciple, Protector, Oracle, Shaman, and Scryer. The last archetype choice available is the Bard. The Bard is a force multiplier and weaves songs of glory and conquest that inspire allies. They know secret and powerful words that can turn foes to friends or make nightmares become reality. Bards are a powerful force that can amplify not only DPS characters, but also other support characters, tanks, and more. This will not be a downtime class. Bards will have engaging combat abilities, buffs that are tied into combat. They will offer some proximity-based healing and have many utility features as well. If you also choose Bard as your secondary archetype, you will be a Minstrel. The other classes include Tellsword, Siren, Trickster, Song Warden, Magician, Song Caller, and Soul Weaver. I'll make sure to do some more videos soon on the skills and how they work, on raiding, nodes, the economy, PvP, and more. And as we get more information, I'll be able to put out more in-depth videos. To summarize this video, you'll be choosing a race and a primary archetype, which is going to give you that primary skill tree. Upon reaching level 25, you'll choose a secondary archetype, which is going to affect how those skills work through something called the augment system. If you guys ended up enjoying this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's a huge help to my channel. I do all sorts of videos on this channel, ranging from comedy videos to live streams to game reviews to game tutorials and much more. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from the early morning all the way to the late afternoon Eastern time, as well as randomly on the weekends right here on this channel. So if you want to hang out for some streams, make sure to turn on those bell notifications, and I hope to see you there.